Rev up your engines!
Well, here's an interesting study from England, and it will make you think twice. They claim that brake pad dust can be more toxic than exhaust emissions. Small microparticles are dangerous. Brake pads used to be made of asbestos, which everybody knows causes cancer now. They used to insulate buildings with them, put them in all kinds of stuff, right? That's one of the reasons that these race car drivers died young. They had asbestos suits they were breathing, and they all died of lung cancer if they raced for years, right? Even though they got rid of the asbestos, the brake pads still, as they wear down, brake dust comes off of them. They have various different materials you use. A lot of them are ceramic. You can imagine small ceramic particles getting in your lungs. I'm sure that's no good for you either, right? So this guy claims that it's even more toxic than the exhaust emissions that come out, because the exhaust emissions that come out of cars are cleaned more and more by catalytic converters. When I was a kid, if you followed a car, you could smell that stench for miles sometimes, especially if it was an older car. Today, cars really don't smell. They get rid of a lot of the pollutants with the catalytic converter and the other anti-pollution systems they have. It turns out that both the brake pads and the tires, you might not think about that, but the same thing with tires, they throw microparticles out, right? And as your tires disappear and your brake pads disappear, all that dust is flying up in the air and we're breathing it in. This guy's saying that, hey, this big myth that the electric cars are going to save us, hey, they actually put out more brake dust because they weigh more and they got to stop more weight, which wears the brake pads out faster, and they eat up tires faster because they have more torque. People thinking that these electric cars are going to save us, they don't even look at the overall picture whatsoever. And hey, since brake dust, this English guy claims, is even more toxic, well, what are we supposed to do? Not use our brakes anymore? Hey, try to glide to a stop, Don't make a lot of turns. Don't hit those brakes. You're going to cause lung cancer. It's been out there for a long time. Now, I mean, they've been out for since the late 1800s. So it's a long time. We still seem to be going, but something to think about. Brake dust and tires might end up killing us with microparticles. Well, the government is looking into a possibility of 877,000 GM V8 engine failures. Now, it's not a recall yet. They're doing an investigation looking into it. You've probably seen those videos. I had this GM at 8 miles, the engine blew up, and I had one that had 20,000 miles, the engine blew up. Well, they're investigating, and it's going to cost GM a small fortune if they'd have to replace 877,000 V8 engines. Toyota had the problem with the twin turbo V6s, Tundras, and they got to replace 100,000 engines. Imagine more than 8 times that, what it would cost GM. Now, we all know from past, GM will fight it tooth and nail, try to deny the whole thing. But it turns out that it looks like it's the bearings on a crankshaft are faulty. And that's one of the most wicked things that can happen to an engine, because you won't notice anything until it blows up. These are the bearings, little metal parts that are inside the bottom of where the piston rod goes in. They bolt the piston rod to the crankshaft that spins around. If they're defective, they'll run. And all of a sudden when they break, boom, piston throws a hole in the side of the engine. You really don't get much warning. It's not like a car that's low on oil will start clanking, the oil pressure light will come on. These suckers will run perfectly fine until they blow up. Now, this is a massive deal for GM. Like I say, they'll probably try to hide it, pretend that nothing happened. But if you've been reading the news, maybe you got a friend who bought one and the engine blew up really early. They really screwed up on this one. They're talking about, we're going to make electric cars for the future. But they got to make the cars that they're making now that are gasoline correctly and forget about the future. They're not going to have any clientele if they're making engines that blow up with 6 miles on them, 15,000 miles. The old GM V8s. I learned how to drive on one. That thing had 200,000 miles on it, and it was in Niagara Falls, New York. So the body rusted out. So we sold the car to the junk man. The junk man took that engine out, put it in his tow truck, and drove it around for years. They don't make them like they used to. Hey, they look like they're getting the same situation as Ford. They're getting all these recalls. Hey, it just shows the lack of quality these people have. Now here, I gotta laugh at GM, right? They got these 877,000 V8 engines that may all be blowing up because the bearings are bad. They got problems with the transmissions and their diesel engines going out. They announce, hey, meet the Chevy Blazer EVR, 1,300 horsepower from 3 electric motors. It's a prototype, obviously, right? And they're saying, oh, we could use this for NASCAR racing. NASCAR racing doesn't do electric cars. No, they're trying to pretend the future's all going to be this electric stuff, right? And so what do they design? 1,300 horsepower blazers. How about making a car today that actually works with a gasoline or diesel engine and a transmission that works and doesn't fall apart with just a few miles on it? Instead of putting their emphasis on, oh, we're going to make a 1,300 horsepower blazer. Oh, look at that. Whoopee. These people are so far removed from us common people who want a car that takes us where we're going, takes the kids to school, goes on vacation, doesn't break down and gets decent gas mileage. We need a 1,300 horsepower blazer like we need a hole in the head, right? Yet they keep pushing this stuff out, right? How about making what you have right so people will continue to buy them? When I was a kid, I learned to drive on a Chevy Impala. Hey, those things are solid, well made. They've gone a long way down since then, and they need to do something besides saying, oh, looky, we're going to make a 1,300 horsepower blazer. They haven't learned from their mistakes, I guess. Maybe it's time to get rid of old Mary Bauer and put somebody in there who has some idea of what people actually want and isn't just a talking head who's worked for GM her whole life and climbed her way up the corporate ladder. And now, what do they say? You reach the height of your incompetency and you stay there. Well, being the head of GM, you can't reach the height of incompetency any more than that. Maybe it's time to find somebody else or maybe change the whole structure of the company. There's something going on that's really bad. And this shows, heck, it's just completely wrong. They can't make a V8 engine anymore, yet they want to make a 1,300 horsepower electric blazer. Hey, cuckoo inside. Now, one guy suggests that Mazda and Toyota may be developing the next generation Miata and GR86 together. The GR86 was using Subaru engines. It was rebadged Subaru, basically, but now Toyota says, no, in the future, we're not going to be using the Subaru engines. We're going to use different engines. And it would kind of make sense for Mazda and Toyota. They have a big relationship. Toyota owns some Mazda stock to work together because Toyota and Mazda build cars on the same assembly line down south. I believe it's a plant in Alabama. They've already got a relationship going, and it would make total sense because why would you want to go scratch from the floor to redesign sports cars? We don't sell that many of them. For example, in 2024, both the Mazda Miata and the GR86 combined, this is combined, sold a total of 19,529. And if you include the Subaru BRZ only sold 3,345 sales. Mustang sold 50,000. But see, even realizing that 50,000 isn't all that much. Sports cars are a thing of the past. Not that many people buy them anymore. They talk, oh, I want a sports car. But people don't actually buy them. So it doesn't make any sense for either Mazda or Toyota to redesign something by themselves because if they had to start from scratch, why would they spend hundreds of millions of dollars when they're only selling a handful of these cars every year? Doesn't make any sense. That's why you see a lot of sports car companies. They're either out of business or somebody else buys them and then they're being backed, like Volkswagen keeps buying all these companies, and they have cars that they don't sell that many for some reason. They seem to like them, so they keep the companies going instead of just saying Fiat and Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo cars have been junk for ages, but they keep building up the company. They got this thing about we like Alfa Romeo. Well, it wouldn't make any sense for Toyota or Mazda to redesign the stuff for the small amounts that they're actually going to sell. Well, I keep telling you electric vehicles aren't that popular. Well, now Mercedes electric vehicles are getting up to a $15,000 off because no one's buying them, right? Well, you know what I say? They could knock $50,000 off and I wouldn't buy one, right? Now, as it stands today, Mercedes-Benz sells 5 different electric vehicles in the United States. And that doesn't include weird stuff like AMG and Maybach's one. This is just a regular Mercedes. Their sales of all bodies, styles, 52% lower 2024 than it did in 2023. Here's this myth that, well, as time goes on, more people buy electric cars. Well, in Mercedes, 52% people bought less 2024 than they did 2023. So that really says something, doesn't it? And now, of course, Mercedes-Benz got to keep knocking money off because nobody's going to buy this. When you lose that kind of sale, 52%, man alive. Time for a fire sale, right? But like I say, I wouldn't buy one of these piles of junk anyways. For example, Mercedes EQS 680 SUV has a sticker price of $181,000, right? And they say they're knocking $10,500 off of it. Like, they're really helping you out there, you know? Hey, look, they're only $170,000 now. But if you don't have that much money, the EQS 450, hey, they're knocking $13,500 off of its $108,550. So it's less than $100,000. Why not buy two of them, you know? But let's face the facts. Nobody's really buying the things. They can't sell them. They just can't get rid of these things. People don't want them. Now, to begin with, they're luxury cars, right? Okay. People that have that kind of money, they don't want to be inconvenienced. They don't want a car they got to wait to plug and charge it in, you know? They don't want something that makes them wait. Heavens forbid. If they have to wait and there's somebody in front of them, it only makes sense that nobody's buying these things. It doesn't fit their effete lifestyles whatsoever. And they're finding it out quickly at Mercedes and Audi. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.